The funeral of longtime U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham became far more than a traditional farewell. While memorial services for prominent political figures are often attended by presidents, lawmakers, and close friends, Graham's funeral presented an extraordinary logistical challenge because of the number of international leaders expected to attend. His decades-long influence on American foreign policy meant that leaders from around the world wanted to pay their final respects, transforming what would normally have been a national event into one requiring international-level security and diplomatic coordination. Following Senator Graham's death at the age of 71, funeral planners faced an unusual task. Rather than organizing a single ceremony, they had to coordinate multiple events in both Washington, D.C., and his home state of South Carolina. According to officials familiar with the planning process, accommodating foreign dignitaries, high-ranking American officials, military honors, and extensive security measures made the arrangements significantly more complex than those for most former senators. The first major ceremony was held in Washington, D.C., where Graham's long career in the United States Senate was honored. His remains were brought to the U.S. Capitol before a funeral service at the Washington National Cathedral. These events attracted current and former lawmakers from both political parties, members of the judiciary, military leaders, diplomats, and numerous international guests. The gathering reflected Graham's reputation as one of America's most influential voices on national security and foreign affairs. One of the biggest reasons for the complicated planning was the attendance of world leaders whose schedules and security requirements had to be carefully coordinated. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy were among the foreign leaders who traveled to Washington to honor Graham. Both leaders had worked closely with the senator during his years advocating for military assistance, international alliances, and strong support for democratic partners overseas. Their presence required additional coordination between U.S. security agencies and international protection teams. President Donald Trump also played a central role in the memorial service by delivering one of the day's most closely watched eulogies. Graham and Trump shared a political relationship that evolved dramatically over the years, from early rivals during the 2016 Republican presidential primary to close allies throughout Trump's presidency. During his remarks, Trump reflected on Graham's determination, loyalty, and decades of public service, while also recalling moments of humor from their friendship. Vice President JD Vance, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, and other prominent political figures joined the list of speakers honoring Graham's life. Friends and colleagues remembered him as a passionate legislator, an outspoken advocate for American military strength, and a senator who never hesitated to defend causes he believed were important. Many speakers emphasized his willingness to work across party lines despite political disagreements, describing him as someone who maintained personal friendships even during difficult legislative battles. Security surrounding the funeral became one of the largest logistical operations associated with a congressional memorial in recent years. Road closures, restricted airspace, coordinated motorcades, and extensive security screening were implemented throughout Washington as numerous dignitaries arrived. Federal, state, and local agencies worked together to ensure both public safety and the smooth movement of international delegations between events. These extraordinary measures highlighted the significance of Graham's relationships beyond American politics. After the Washington service concluded, attention shifted to South Carolina, where Graham spent much of his life and represented residents for decades in the U.S. Senate. A second memorial service was scheduled in Columbia before a private family burial in Pickens County. Holding ceremonies in two separate locations required careful scheduling to allow world leaders and American officials to participate in Washington, while still giving Graham's hometown community an opportunity to honor him closer to home. Many observers noted that Graham's funeral reflected the unique role he played in international affairs. Throughout his Senate career, he became one of the strongest supporters of NATO, Ukraine, Israel, and America's global alliances. His frequent overseas visits and close relationships with foreign leaders helped explain why representatives from around the world considered it important to attend his final farewell. The attendance of these leaders demonstrated the international respect he had earned over more than 3 decades in public office. Beyond the political symbolism, the services also focused on Graham's personal story. Speakers reflected on his upbringing in South Carolina, his military service as an Air Force lawyer, and his rise from modest beginnings to becoming one of the most recognizable voices in the United States Senate. Friends described him as someone who combined sharp political instincts with loyalty to those closest to him, while family members remembered a devoted brother, uncle, and friend whose humor remained intact even during challenging moments. Ultimately, Lindsey Graham's funeral became much more than a ceremonial goodbye. It evolved into a gathering of American political leaders and international allies, whose presence reflected the global reach of his career. The extraordinary planning required for multiple services, heightened security, diplomatic coordination, and attendance by presidents, prime ministers, and senior government officials illustrated just how influential Graham had become during his decades in public life. As mourners paid their respects in Washington and later in South Carolina, the ceremony served not only as a farewell to one senator but also as a reflection of the lasting relationships he built across the United States and around the world.